Why should I worship God? Many people say that they believe in God, but don't understand why they owe him their worship. The basic definition of the word worship means to honor or give reverence to something, to show something its worth in the highest degree. Now, what does worship have to do with us? Well, we see that worship is fundamentally built into our being as humans. In every historical culture and people, we find an innate desire to worship some kind of deity or higher power. In today's modern and secular culture, people do the same thing, whether they know it or not. We may not be worshiping totem poles and statues now, but we worship false gods just as much, if not more, than those old civilizations did back then. Within our so-called unreligious and secular culture, idols like our appearance, career, legacy, wealth, pleasure, all can become our center of worth in an instant. Whatever you give the most time to, whatever motivates you to get out of bed every morning, is most likely the thing that you worship. And these material pieces of our lives do have meaning, but no matter how much money you have, no matter how many rewards and achievements you receive, all of it will pass away. None of it lasts as long as we want it to, and we want it to last for forever, but it doesn't. You see, there is something in us that longs for something that doesn't end. We long for something that is eternal, something that's familiar, but yet so unlike us. And what we long for is God. You see, we ultimately worship what we think will satisfy our desires. The worship of God provides something for us we can't find anywhere else. Heaven on earth. It provides a space where the infinite meets the finite, where God meets man. Through this, we come to understand that our worship of God is not particularly for God's sake, but largely for our sake. And we realize how much we need God within this sacred space. This space is the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And this Mass is the worship of the one triune God, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God-man, Jesus, who took on the sins of the whole world to redeem us in our sin and brokenness, and comes to us in this timeless sacrifice of Calvary. The Mass is one of the greatest traditions the Catholic Church has given us, and as Catholics, it is our highest and most perfect form of worship. Within our Universal Church, we have different rites of the Mass. To name a few, we have the Byzantine Rite, the Novus Ordo Rite, and the Tridentine Rite, which is commonly referred to as the traditional Latin Mass. Within the Tridentine Rite, we find its beauty and reverence attracting young Catholics around the world, and this increase of devotion to it has helped countless young Catholics deepen their faith in Christ. And we here at Leave 99 also have a particular devotion to it, and want to help spread and encourage more young Catholics to discover this timeless form of worship. Now, with all this being said, I want to give you guys my own personal experience, my first time ever going to a traditional Latin Mass. So when I was around 12, 13 years old, I was in 7th grade, I remember. It was 2018, and it was January. We were at the March, me and my family were at the March for Life in D.C. And I remember it was the morning of the march. It was early. I think it was maybe 7:30, 8 a.m. And my parents wanted to go to Mass. And so we went to this Mass. I'm pretty sure the building we were at wasn't a church. It was, I think, in a room in a mall or a convention center. I don't remember exactly what building we were in. But it was a small room. The only things that were in there were a bunch of chairs set up in rows, and then a tiny little altar facing the wall. And we get in there. It's small. It's early. I'm not a morning person, so I'm a little distracted, you could say. So we get into our seats and stuff like that. We sit down and start praying, whatever, waiting for Mass to start. And then, you hear the bell ring, right? And I hear this singing. That's not like any regular church I hear singing from, where it's, all the songs are in English and what have you. But instead I hear this like long drawn out foreign language that I've never heard before. Little did I know that it was Latin. And then I see this priest who's in this beautiful vestment. And what's the most striking is his hairdo. This priest walks in and he's got a tonder. For those who don't know what a tonder is, it's that crown of thorns looking hairstyle, if you please. It's supposed to obviously supposed to symbolize the crowning of Christ and the person of Christ and stuff like that. But I didn't know that at that time. But I see that and I'm like shocked. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? This is so different from anything I've already experienced in Mass. I had no idea. I don't even know what's going on. And then priest gets to the front of the altar and we start Mass. And everything is silent and everything is in a language I've never heard before. And initially, I thought it was a Mass in Spanish. And for those watching who know me, it's really embarrassing because my whole mom's side of my family is from Latin America. And that goes to show you how much I know Spanish, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I thought the Mass was in Spanish. I had no idea what was going on. And I was literally, the only thing I knew I could do was try and pray, even though I have no idea what's going on. And the reason I tell you guys this story is because that experience, that for my first time ever going to Latin Mass, coincided with probably the biggest part of my faith journey growing up. 7th grade was a particularly hard year for me, for my own self-identity and for my own faith as well, specifically. And going into the summer, I was struggling with a lot of mortal sin. A lot of sins I had no idea I was doing either. And it just coincided with this experience of the Latin Mass. During the same time, my parents had not only shown interest in it, but had decisively wanted to keep trying it, to keep going somehow, some way. Now, I don't come from a traditional Latin Mass parish. But we, as a family, my parents decided that we were going to try and go to Latin Mass at least once a month, once every other month. And we kept going. My parents started to fall in love with it, and they started to teach me and my older sister what was going on. Because it was so unlike anything that we had ever experienced before as kids and as Catholics, honestly. And through that, I learned more about it. I discovered that this Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, the Tridentine Mass, is the Mass of my forefathers, of all of our forefathers as Catholics. It's the Mass that St. Thomas Aquinas attended. It's the Mass of all the great popes, So much history, so much richness, so much culture, so much tradition in it. And the biggest question I had when I was learning about it and developing a devotion to it was, why didn't I know about this before? Why didn't I know about this? My grandparents, they attended it when they were little. And yet 30, 40, 50 years go by and no one talks about it. And it's a shame. It's so beautiful. I felt robbed. When I learned about it. And when I started to become more attached to it, when I started to develop a real devotion to it. And through that devotion, my faith deepened. I began to understand what the Mass was about, and also what my worship is supposed to look like. It's not supposed to be this whole worship isn't supposed to be this thing that's only about participating, or it's only about how much I do. That's what matters in the Mass, and for me particularly as a lay person. It's like, no, Mass is a time of worship of God. It's not about you. It's not about your neighbor. It's about God. It's about giving him what he's owed, because he's done so much for us in turn. He has remained faithful to us, so we in turn must be faithful to him, because he sacrificed for us. And through all this, I want you viewers to get something specific out of this video. I want you guys to understand, if you're learning about the Mass, and if you're learning about the Latin Mass specifically, I want you to realize that, especially if you've never experienced it before, that you are going to feel out of place, to say the least. And that's not a bad thing. Honestly, it's a very good thing. It puts you in your place. You're not the center of attention there. God is. And that's the way it should be. You're there to worship God. You're there to worship God. And through that, you understand every inkling that's done in the Mass. You understand every movement is made with a purpose, is made with an end goal to glorify God. Not glorify ourselves, but to glorify God in the highest degree. And another point that I want you guys to receive from this is, I said it earlier, it's so unlike anything you will ever experience in this life. It's so unlike it. Because when you go into that Mass, when you go into the traditional Latin Mass, like I said earlier, you're put in your place, and you definitely feel like you're in a spot of uncontrol. You know, I think a lot of us, and Snowfall's our own modern culture does this to us. You know, we feel the need to control everything. You know, I control, for example, I control what I eat. I control the way I drive. I control this outcome, that outcome, whatever it is. And we try and do this in the Mass as lay people, as Catholics especially. We try and control what we think we can control. In a lot of ways, we think we can try and control God. And what the Latin Mass does, and what it has done for my own self, and for many others, for many other young Catholics as well, is that it has correctly ordered our way of worship, which is to worship God. The last point that I want you guys to receive from this, again, I kind of said it earlier within my own kind of story with all of this and experience and everything, but ask yourself the question, why didn't I know about this sooner? If you're a Catholic out there, a young Catholic especially, ask yourself that question. Why have I never heard of this before? Why have I never heard of this before? And if you've never experienced it before, and you don't understand why people like it so much, try it. Try it out. I encourage you to go to the High Mass. High Mass is probably easier to follow along if you're just transitioning from a regular Sunday Mass to a traditional Latin Mass. It'll be a little bit easier to catch on with things and everything like that. But yeah, I definitely want to encourage all of you guys to go and try and attend the Latin Mass if you can. Now, I know it's very hard to, it's under certain circumstances, it's very hard to really get to a Latin Mass and stuff like that. For me personally, the closest one is about an hour and a half away when I'm home. And so I can definitely understand. I understand if it's hard to get there. But regardless, I really want to encourage all of you guys who are interested in it or just want to learn about it or anything like that. I really want to encourage you guys to attend one. Biggest thing that I would recommend is don't just attend it once. I would say attend it at least 3 times. At least 3 times. And try to go to a High Mass the first time. So signing off here, again, I really want to emphasize how grateful I am for you guys for watching this video. I want to encourage you guys again to try and investigate the traditional Latin Mass. It's something that our church has offered for millennia, and please be open to it. It has provided so much fruit in my own life, and so much fruit in all my friends' life and my family's life, etc. And I really want you guys to see that and experience that in your own lives. So thank you guys for watching. God bless you, and stay in the battle.